Good day to everyone, especially to Miss Lovely Española. For today, we are going to present the 03 readings from 1 to 2. I know you are all excited about it, but let me first show you the beautiful and handsome members I have. Starting with yours truly, John Arnon Hentugao, Daninia Riv Celedonio, Ira Marie Boyco, Ferlin Perolino, Diana Kate Estuquia, Daniela Gibaluan, and the last but not the least, Janelle Lumuntad. Now, as we will tackle the new readings, I hope you will listen to us carefully during the discussion because it will be a pleasure to us to know that you have obtained many insights from this. Now, the long wait is over because we will move on to the first reading, the 03 Readings 1, which is Locating the Global South by Lisandro E. Colodio.
First topic to be tackled is the Starbucks and the Shanty. I know all of us here know what Starbucks is. Kung coffee lover ka, kabalo ko, kabalo ka ni. This is a coffee shop which is a famous one as it spreads all over the world. Damo sini sa mga branches around the world and even in our place sa Pilipinas makita tani. But what do we mean with the other one which is Shanty? So this one means a small, proudly built dwelling or shelter sa Pilipinas ginatawag tani kubo-kubuan. Kag makita tani mostly sa mga squatters area or those marginalized places. The shanty represent the tenacity of the local which is unable to participate in a cosmopolitan culture represented by Starbucks. So now, this chapter address the implication of globalization wherein kakakita taman ni duwa ni example and effects nga gindala ka globalization and global modernity. These two things nga makita nyo sa inyo nga screen is an example of how globalization and global modernity produce negative effects. As we all know that Starbucks has spread throughout the world, even to the third world countries like Philippines. Although we can see that globalization has been developing since many Starbucks branches has spread like in New York and Delhi, but we cannot deny the fact that outside of the aesthetic shop are the shanty ones. The poverty of what we call the undersides that was created by globalization, we could really compare the two by seeing the incompleteness of the globalization to the global south. Meaning to say, the globalization in this chapter states that if there is good news, there will be also a bad news. And one example of that is symbolism brought by the Starbucks and the Shanty. We have already done this topic. For the next one, we have conceptualizing without defining that will be discussed by Daniela Gibaluan.
Conceptualizing without defining. In here, this is more interested in equality and imbalances in the global south as well as unequal global power structures. So bali, ang conceptualizing and defining gina-address ang problems of the global south in the states. To continue, the global south needs special considerations from those engaged in social and political actions against global inequality. Under conceptualizing and defining, there are underdevelopments of governments and underrepresentations in the global political process that we are featured. I know you can see the pictures there, and that is the map of the global south. And as we have observed, the Philippines belongs to the global south. But now, what is the global south? To continue, to answer that question, this one is used as rallying points for countries that have been wounded by institutions with economic treatments. This is both reality and unfinished project. This one is also metaphor for appearance of questions that arose as former colonial countries engaged in political decolonization programs and pushed towards the establishment of a new world order. Meaning to say, Global South is one of the countries nga mostly ka-experience ang ginatawag naton nga global inequality. It is sad to know, but that one will abolish nga ma-adjust ang global north or those who are what we are called first worlds. And that is all for that topic. Now we have John for the next one.
We have colonialism, modernity, and the creation of global inequality. Kita nyo ng tatlo ka pictures. So amo lang na ang representation sa words nga colonialism, modernity, and also the global inequality. There are three of them, and what do we mean about them? Firstly, the colonialism. So that one means controlled by a power over an area. Just like, for example, the word Latin America. What do you think its origin? So under the reading 01, it states that Latin America is cause of the Spain invasion. So bali, without the colonialism of Spain, we can never have the word which is Latin America. Same man Japon sang natabo sa Philippines under Spain. As we all know, we are colonized by the Spaniards, causing us to adopt some kinds of their cultures, behaviors, and beliefs. We also obtained the name Philippines because of them, through the King of Spain, which is Philip II. Moving on to modernity, which means the quality or condition of being modern in terms of technology, governance, and socio-economics. Gaka-observe nyo man na guro ang mga technological developments nga gakaputan naton, like the one we are having today, such as laptop, cell phones, and other kinds of gadgets, and those things are example of modernity. So, next is global inequality, which means that it is global inequality when resources are limited to a few core nations and a wealthy minority of corporations or individuals. So bali kung hindi fair ang distribution among other individuals, we have what we call the global inequality. Kabati na kamo siguro na sang tinaga nga bakit ang mga mayayaman lalong yumayaman at bakit naman ang mahihirap lalong naghihirap? What do you think it's the reason for that? Well, it is because of unfair or unjust distribution of power or goods, which can be considered as global inequality. This global inequality, according to this reading, nag-arise siya kuno because of universalist ideologies. Now, moving on, the Global South is, in many ways, a creation of Western imagination. Large portions of Africa and Southeast Asia were subjected due to the French mission of civilization. Bale, we can view this as modernity at the same time colonialism if we dig deeper pagid about it. The desire to impose Western social scientific rationality and capitalist principles like property rights on all people stemmed from the idea of development. The metaphors that political scientists and economists use to describe the tensions of globalization also have a propensity to overdetermine and refeed the Global South. The Global South serve as both the necessary specter and antagonist of global modernity. Globalist ideas of linear growth and development emerge from colonial rhetoric. So, that is all about this topic, which is colonialism, modernity, and creation of global inequality. Let's move on to the next topic. We have Kate for that.
Challenging the colonial order. In here, ang anti-colonialism is not just emphasizing domestic nationalism, but also this is an internationalist project. Since the inception of anti-colonialism, the idea of solidarity among colonized governments has been evident. Meaning to say, halin sang unang pagali, sang time sang anti-colonialism, nag-exist ang idea ka solidarity. And as we all know, that solidarity simply means unity, or sa Filipino, ginatawag naton pagkakaisa. So, to continue, the global left has since kept articulating ways to be in solidarity with the developing world. Colonialism has a contemporary phase in the shape of the small yet foreign community within a country controlling the economy, the mind, and the body. Bali, biskan in our modern world today, colonialism can still be visible and prominent. Kung manotice nyo, damo Japan country nga ga-control sang production sang other countries. And with that, we can say that it is colonialism. Now, there is Vladimir Lenin, born on April 22, 1870 and died on January 21, 1924. But who is he? So, Lenin is an architect of Russia's Bolshevik Revolution. That revolution overthrew the imperial government and attempted a radical social and economic transformation. Aside from that, after the Bolshevik Revolution and the resurgence of international worker militancy that occurred in its wake, he also founded the Communist International or Comintern in 1919 as an alternative locus of socialist internationalism. He also urged communists to forge ties with nationalist elites and peasants in their fight against colonialism. And lastly, he argued that capitalism's strength is premised on the creation of new markets via imperialism. Okay, so our next topic is the Global South as new internationalism. In here, Greece is starting to resemble the backward, economically underdeveloped countries of the Global South. The Global South has provided models of resistance for the world, and it continues to do so. Amidst the existential threat of climate change, the most radical notions of climate justice are being articulated. Increasingly, people in Greece will become more aware of neoliberalism's deleterious effects. In a situation like this, they may soon draw inspiration from the Greeks. Okay, in this context, governments and groups from the Global South have been articulating blueprints for environmentally sustainable growth. The Global South has always been a network, and Asianism needs to be rethought as a network formed through intellectual, physical, emotional, virtual, institutional, and even sexual contacts. Howe and Shirashi argue that Asianism can be conceived and as a moving, living, and open-ended political project. Many global movements, even those that are non-state-based and transnational, seek to redress interstate inequality. Okay, so that has been a blast. Clap yourself as we have done the first one. Now let's move on sa iya. Joke lang, move on na ta sa una. Kadto na naman ta subong sa bag-o, which will tackle globalization and the Asia-Pacific and South Asia by Ihito Kimura.
Under 03, reading 2, the first topic to be tackled is Asia-Pacific and South Asia and the world, and what does it mean? This is to explore the relationship between globalization and the region of the Asia and South Asia. Asia-Pacific and South Asia make up nearly a third of world land and mass and 2/3 of global population. The combined economies of region now generate the largest share of global GDP of gross domestic product at 35% compared with Europe 28% and North America 23%. The Asia-Pacific has become a key driver of global politics as well as one of the key engines of the global economy. It also looks at globalization is broad historical terms looking back to colonial and pre-colonial times. That is all for that one. Now for the next, we have Janelle for that.
An externalist view of globalization. An externalist view of globalization is an external phenomenon that was created by the world power, especially the US and the Euro. One of the earliest manifestations of this discourse was dated back when the Westerners discovered the Asia Pacific and South Asia. Meaning to say, counted as an example, sini ang Magellan arrival in the Philippines, and as you can see in the picture, Magellan and his men are doing something that up until now is still a practice in the Philippines, and that is being devoted to Christian. Magellan never failed to his journey in spreading Christianity in our country after the Spaniards. Many countries has landed in the Philippines, hindi man lang sa Pinas, kundi in other Southeast Asia places man. According to this view, the technological and industrial more advanced Western power found their way to the region and alternatively prodded and muscled their way to political and economic dominance. So below, there is a concept map externalist view of globalization, and there are three of them. Firstly, under this viewpoint, globalization is seen as a one-way or irreversible process that deals with how countries' politics, economics, and cultural features are changing, and whether those changes are beneficial or terrible, for better or worse. Secondly, globalization is seen as a process that transforms South Asia and the Asia Pacific into a new one. Lastly, is that the experiment approach to the globalization revealed both its benefit and drawback for the area. That is all for topic. For the next two topics, we have Nina Reeves Celedoni.
First is generating globalization, the Asia Pacific and South Asia as a springboard. This chapter talks about an alternative way to see the relationship between globalization and the Asia Pacific and South Asia, which is considered as the region of an autonomous agent serving as an engine for globalization. Aside from this, we have three frameworks of trajectories relative to globalization and the role of Asia Pacific and South Asia, such as the region impacted by globalization, the region pushing globalization forward, and the region as an alternative to globalization. Now, let us know naman subong kung ano ang impacts ng globalization sa Asia Pacific and South Asia according to this chapter. So first, in Pacific Asia, because of globalization, there are flows of goods, portfolio capital, and direct investment to rise quickly. In fact, South Asia has improved because of globalization from slowest growing until 3 decades ago to one of the fastest growing economies. While in Pacific Asia, globalization has resulted in rapidly growing international flows of goods, portfolio capital, and direct investment. At the same time, several countries have shifted of a command to a market economy. Just sit tight as we near to finish. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is the anti-global impulse, original alternatives to globalization. Now, this one tackles third and final scheme to able to a third and final paradigm to understanding the relationship of Asia Pacific and South Asia to globalization is as the original alternative to globalization. There are different views on this, and that one place to begin with Japanese colonialism in the 1930s and 1940s. Japan's colonization of the region and the building of a supposed East Asian co-prosperity sphere merely replicated the imperial relationship in East Asia with new masters. A second way to look is the regional alternative was by looking through the lens of regional arrangements. For example, the East Asia Economic Caucus, or EAEC, floated as early as 1990 and pushed as an alternative to APEC. The proposed member states were ASEAN, China, South Korea, and Japan. The United States strongly objected at that time, but Japan saw the exclusion of the United States as a threat to their strategic partnership and effectively vetoed for the idea. A final way to see as a regional alternative was to explore the various local movements that have emerged. Hukui 2009, the village of Sandhook, Thailand, created their own currency following the Asian financial crisis that struck the region in Thailand community. Currency is an example of a larger trend in self-sufficiency movement that emerged in Thailand after the Asian financial crisis. We have done all topics from 03 readings 1 to 2. That is all for today's presentation. Damo man kamuayhan may nabalaan, tanay damo man. We hope you've got to learn a lot today. Thanks for all the attention you've given to us. Madamong salamat sa tanan. God bless you all and aim high.